Uh, all right. Well, with that note, let's get started. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the third week of the Lambrusco month. Um, we're tasting this guy today. This little orange, dark orange label, burnt orange label. 2019 Fiorini Becco Rosso, Lambrusco Grasparossa, the Castelvetro DOP is what we are tasting today. Um, So a few announcements. If you have outstanding invoice, you got a ping from me already. Most of you have responded back. Some of you have not. If you're joining us next month, just let me know, or just go and pay that invoice. If not, just let me know so I can get that all settled. But I'm gonna wrap up the enrollment probably tomorrow. By end of tomorrow, and like I was saying to Phil, I'm probably going to process all the orders and probably pack them all and get them all ready to go probably Friday, latest Tuesday, but hoping to get it all done by Friday. So if you are joining us, let us know so I can process all of that. But yeah, I will be wrapping all that up end of this week, tomorrow. So please let me know. And most of you already heard this, but in case you have not, next month's theme is what I'm calling a non-binary box in celebration of the Pride Month. I'm having all these wines that are quote unquote rosé-ish. These are all the wines that kind of intentionally or unintentionally blur the categorical lines between red wine, white wine, rosé. What is this? Does it matter? Those kind of wines. So yeah, that's what we're tasting next month. Speaking of rosé, Kirsten, it's going to be a box full of these kind of different rosés, weird rosés. So yeah, that's what next month is all about. It's just my way of celebrating Pride Month in my geeky, nerdy wine ways. So that's what I'll be. That's pretty much all the announcements that I have. For those of you who attended Wine Problem, I sent out a separate email with all the pictures. Hope you got a chance to look at them. Take a look. If you have any other pictures, I would appreciate it if you could just upload them onto that Google Photos folder so we can all have it in the same place. And I also sent out a survey for those of you who attended, just kind of get some feedback. So if you could fill that out, that will be fantastic. So yeah, please take care of that. Besides that, this month we are donating to Meals on Wheels. The link is right there in the chat box. Donation link is there if you want to donate alongside 6 Foot Wine Club. And MikeE, absolutely. Mine did the same. Mine, I don't know if some of you guys had the same experience. Mine literally popped off as soon as I was on that kind of last turn of the cage. Thank God I had that thumb up. But yeah, there you go. These things happen. As our own godfather had told us, he has seen 4 patients in his life that have lost eyesight from a champagne cork or sparkling wine.
First time here too. Actually, luckily my hand was right on top and poop popped right into it. So
see, there you go. It happens. I don't make this shit up. I've seen this happen many times. So this is why. There you go. Any questions about anything I just went over before we get into the wine?
I mean, I think that this has got to be the worst cage quality of any wine producer in the world. So far, 3 people on this call have had their cage break and have the cork pop out. So what happened? That's some pretty poor quality.
Yeah.
4.
There you go, 4. Yeah, mine kind of like broke on the last turn and then like popped off. So I was like, whoa. But
yeah, and mine was moving too. Like I had my thumb on it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's kind of funny. The cage looks bent. And it just started going, and I could barely keep the cork down. Actually, I was like, this thing's coming out.
Yeah, it's kind of pressure in this thing. Also, Charles, do that one more time. Can you put a thumbs up again? Did everybody else see this? There was like a little like when you did that earlier, there was a little
yeah, it's like the AI of Zoom. It like does and if you do like certain things, I think it does fireworks.
Huh. Okay. Well, there it is. All right. Well, for those of you who are just joining us now and just opening this, you just heard this. Be careful because these corks will pop off on you. A lot of pressure in these ones. We're tasting this guy. 2019 for the Fiorini, Becco Rosso, Lambrusco, Grasparossa, the Castelvetro DOP is what we're tasting today. All right. This start was a minute. Here we go. It should look pretty familiar. We've been in here this whole month. It's third week. We have one more week left. Emilia Romagna. Lambrusco is not specific to or exclusive to Emilia Romagna. These are some of the reviews. But yeah, it's not exclusive to Emilia Romagna. There's some Lambrusco being grown and made in Lombardia as well, which is this region next to between Piedmont and Trentino. But majority of it, and when people think of think of Lambrusco, they think of Emilia Romagna. When they think of Emilia Romagna, they also think of Lambrusco. Having said that, there's also Trebbiano, there's Sangiovese, there's other still wine styles and examples being made here. So it's not exclusive to a sparkling wine. And as evidenced by the first wine of this month, Lambrusco also does not mean that it has to be sparkling red, even though that is the most common style. It can also range style from dry to dolce, which is sweet in Italian. And also stylistically, depending on the grape variety you use, you can have more tannin, you can have more structure, you can have more color, alcohol even. So all those things are stylistic range that you can expect from Lambrusco. It's not Lambrusco. So the whole point of this month was that I was trying to showcase that Lambrusco is not all created equal, and particularly going into this week and next week, you kind of see the darker, heavier, more tannic structure kind of a side of Lambrusco, particularly next week. But yeah, this Emilia Romagna region, the northern half, Bologna kind of being the dividing line. The northern half is where it's called, that's the Emilia region. That's basically where all the Lambrusco, as well as all the kind of delicious Italian exports that we come to think of here in America, all pretty much come from, Parmesan cheese, the prosciutto, the balsamic vinegar, the bolognese, all those things are pretty much originate from this place. So very, very culinarily important, significant place. And part of that is because this is all on the southern kind of riverland, alluvial land of a Po River. So the land is quite fertile. So the agriculture, besides viticulture, is also very, very robust. So you get a lot of fresh produce and grape products, a lot of dairy cows, dairy operations being operated here as well. And then the southern half is a Romagna region. This is a lot more, it gets a lot hillier. As you can kind of see in this map, there's a mountain range that runs right here along Emilia. And that's essentially what divides Emilia to Liguria. But yeah, this mountain range. So it gets a little more hilly as you go south. It gets a little more rustic, and this is where the still wines. So if you're ever looking for some Emilia Romagna Sangiovese that you want to taste against Tuscany Sangiovese, that'd be a good thing to do, fun thing to do. Trebbiano, all those things pretty much come from the southern half in the Romagna region. So yeah, this kind of very big region, as you can even see in the map. It kind of goes all the way from almost the east, it bridges the east and west coast. If it wasn't for Liguria, it would pretty much reach the entire coast to coast. But yeah, quite a big region, and a lot of wine coming from here as well. But so even in here, within that, where we are is just south of Modena. So Modena, this is where the world's best balsamic vinegar comes from. just south of it, this is where Grasparossa di Castelvetro DOP exists. It's a collection of 13 communes. I don't have a separate map of just a Grasparossa di Castelvetro. But yeah, there are about 13 different communes just south of Modena that make up this DOP, which is an Italian equivalent appellation of like a French appellation system. In general, the land here is quite flat and fertile, and the soil is quite rich in minerals. And again, that's part of the reason why agriculture is really robust here. A lot of delicious things come from here. But also the best examples of these Lambruscos and different wines and all of that kind of come from some of the hills a little bit higher up than just on the flat land. But in general, it's a pretty flat area. But yeah, this is basically where if you ever get Lambrusco that's made from Grasparossa, the chances are it probably came from just south of Modena, from Grasparossa in Castelvetro, because this is where Grasparossa lives. As you go towards Parma, this is where Sorbara flourishes. So Sorbara is a grape variety that we tasted in the first week, and then now we're in the southern end of Modena and tasting Grasparossa. So let's talk about who makes this wine. These guys. Fiorini is a family estate, very small. They're not very big. Established in 1919, they've been making wines. The Fiorini family has been making wines for 4 generations. All Lambrusco, all working with the indigenous varieties only. Here is Alberto Fiorini on the right and Cristina Fiorini on the left. They're brother and sister. So they're carrying on their parents' legacy, as well as a great grandparents and grandparents' legacy. So 4th generation carrying on the Lambrusco tradition. They farm 12 hectares of certified organic vineyards, all southeast facing, on the last strip of the Bologna Hills. Like I mentioned, that land is pretty flat in general, but some of these the higher end quality Lambrusco comes from the hillside, and that's kind of what we're talking about. And you see right here, so it kind of looks like this. Last bit of the hillside. So this is their main estate on atop a hill, and then all their vineyards are along, and then this kind of what that looks like. So this is that top hill. That photo was taken from down here. So yeah, these are their vineyards. This is their estate. There's their cellar and the winery as well. They farm 3 different vineyards, planted to different soil with a different kind of a vine age and different Lambrusco varieties. They make all ranges, so they make both Sorbara, all Sorbara, Grasparossa, Palomino. They make all of them, and they're kind of divided amongst these 3 different vineyards, all in a different kind of aspect, different slope, different soil type. So this is like the one. If you're going to pick one producer to kind of taste through Lambrusco, kind of see their style, really see how Lambrusco changes depending on the change in the soil site selection, this is a good producer to do that with. And that's one reason I've always liked Fiorini. I've always liked their wine period. I just think there's a certain level of real freshness and just kind of purity to their wines. But just even outside of that, I think it's just a really good producer that kind of serves showcases the fact that Lambrusco can indeed express terroir and have this kind of wide range of style instead of what everybody thinks of as quaffable grape juice that people think Lambrusco is. They also make fantastic balsamic vinegar. They make affinato. I'm going to see if they have it available. They don't often have it available, but if they have it available, I'll offer it on Case Club. But their balsamic is fantastic. They sell affinato, which is aged for 12 years in barrels. And then they sell another one called Extra Vecchio, extra dry. They're aged 25 years in wood. They're fantastic. Like that 25 Extra Vecchio almost comes out like a syrup. It's fantastic stuff. But yeah. What is this wine? It is a 85% certified organic Lambrusco Grasparossa. Comes from this particular Becco Rosso. Comes from their youngest vineyards. These are their youngest vines. Still about 40 years. There's some 40-year vines also thrown in here, but in general comes from the youngest vines in the vineyards, all grown on clay, with a 20% of Lancialota. Lancialota, well, I've never heard of that grape, but it is one of the 60 Lambrusco varieties that are grown. But yeah, some of it was thrown in here. From what I've researched, the Grasparossa is the most, the Lancialato kind of brings in the more of the softer side, more acid to the wine, as opposed to Grasparossa being the kind of the most robust of the Lambrusco varieties. So whenever you see Grasparossa on the label, expect much darker in fruit quality. So, you know, going from that kind of red cherry, tart cherry, red plum, that kind of stuff. Think like a violet, fresh plums, black cherries, even black currant. Much fuller bodied, higher in alcohol oftentimes, and then it's the most tannic as well. This week's example, even though it does have a little bit of tannin, it's not the most tannic example. Next week's wine is also made by Fiorini, and it's also their Grasparossa, but comes from their single vineyard, much older vines. That one you will see how tannic and how kind of a burly Lambrusco can get. This one, the Becco Rosso, is more of kind of like softer, quaffable, kind of drink it now kind of a style. And I particularly picked it that way. I really wanted to kind of show you guys that difference between, even though it's the same grape variety and same producer, Lambrusco producer, that you can have this incredibly different style, range of style in Lambrusco. Like I said, this month is all about showing you that Lambrusco can range in style. I've never had this. I don't know if any of you who's been to that region has ever tried this, but apparently Grasparossa Lambrusco is a classic pairing for a local food dish called zampone, which is a stuffed pig trotter. I really kind of want to try it now. So anything swine, essentially, basically pair well with Grasparossa because of that tannic, because of that body. It oftentimes can live up to much bigger and more robust food as well. This one is all made in Charmat method, very typical. Next month's one is not made in Charmat method. It is in a bottle age fermentation. So that's also another difference between this week and next week. And you'll kind of see it in a bit of a bubble quality here as well. I mean, even in my glass now, looking at it, like there's that foam that kind of like, you know, forms on the top and kind of stays. Very typical of a Charmat method. It's not always the case, but it also depends on how much time is spent in the tank. But in this case, it probably spent very little time. As soon as it was probably done fermenting, it probably went in. So Charmat method, just as a review, tank method. So you put all the grapes, you get the grape must, you throw it in the tank, and then you let it ferment. And then once the wine is done fermenting, you throw yeast and sugar on top of it. In this case, I know they use they reserve some of their fresh must, and they freeze it, and then they throw that back in as a way to restart that second fermentation. So yeah, they throw in some form of a sugar and yeast basically into the finished wine inside of a tank, and then all that new sugar and yeast produce CO2, and it has nowhere to go because it's a tank. It gets dissolved into the wine, makes it sparkling, and then you basically bottle it and you sell it off. There's not really much of that kind of that churning of the bottles, letting it sit on the lees. It's not about that. It's all about the kind of the fresh, pure varietal character of the grape, of the wine. So you should expect more fruit here than anything else. So yeah, that's what we got. Any questions about anything I just went over before we move into the tasting? Excellent. Let's taste the wine. Also, when I tasted this, I don't remember this wine, this being this dry. I remember this having a touch of sugar, like a touch of RS, but I don't know if you guys wine is different. Maybe my palate is still off. My palate is definitely still off from COVID. It's not fully back yet. But you know, the sugar is different. The sugar is just a structure, but yeah, I remember this being has a little more sugar, but it's quite dry and it's quite nice. Anyways, who wants to take the appearance?
I'll do it.
All right. All right, here's
My lighting is terrible. It's clear.
Clear.
Might have poured too much in my glass.
Okay.
Look at it. But it looks, I mean, it's hard to, I can't, it's very dark, so
Yeah.
and the bubbles are on, but so I don't really see haziness in it, but maybe if the bubbles weren't there, I could be able to, but it looks clear to me.
Yeah, mine too. Mine has got a full head of a foam layer of foam on top, so it's hard for me to like see through it. But yeah, I want to say this is probably deep, and that's actually quite common with the Grasparossa. This is how much color, how much ink you're gonna get, so it's probably should be pretty hard to see through the middle of it. So let's go with deep. Deep. What's the color?
I mean, it's purple.
Yeah.
But almost even darker than that.
Yeah.
Like it's dark purple. Really. Yeah. I mean, it looks, you know, the surface is lighter from the bubbles, but the bubbles are purple, like definite purple. And the wine is like, to me, almost looks black.
Yeah, it's funny that the bubbles themselves have a color on them. But yeah, this is definitely like there's a ton of that purple, bluish red, that color going on here. Yeah, it's like a deep purple. Yeah. Any other observations?
Bubbles.
A lot of bubbles, right?
Bubbles, and really like you said, it's like when you first pour it, it's like foam, almost like a beer.
Yeah.
You know, on the top.
Mm-hmm.
So it settles in, but the bubbles stay.
Yeah, exactly. That's usually like they sometimes gives you some way of knowing like the production method, like a Charmat method, especially ones that haven't spent a lot of time in the tank that hasn't had time to really age and settle, will oftentimes do this. A lot of these kind of bubbles that stick around that foam like beer. Penna can sometimes do that as well. You rarely see this happen with like really the traditional method that has spent a lot of time in the bottle, because they all just get dissolved into the wine. But yeah, definitely a lot of foam. Got like a full layer on top of wine. Anything else?
Nothing else.
Yep, excellent. Just want to put your attention to like how much deeper in terms of like color and intensity this wine is, right? Like compared to past weeks. It's just much darker, like Kirsten mentioned, like it's almost like that blacker, you know, purple, like it gets very quite dark. And that's exactly Grasparossa. It is the most kind of that inky, dark, robust kind of thing. So yeah, exactly what you should expect from Grasparossa. All right, you get to pick the next person for the notes.
Does anybody want to volunteer? I can't really see everybody on the screen, but
Bueller.
I'm just trying to look and see who's here. How about Charles? Haven't heard your voice in a while.
Okay.
All right, Charles.
Wine is clean.
Wine's clean and sound. Intensity?
Intensity,
Medium plus.
kind of between medium and medium plus.
Yeah, I would say
It's
that
like
this is
I'd probably call it medium, but it may just be a temperature issue, but it's between
Yeah.
the two.
like I smell it here. I mean, it's like just off the rim. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would call this medium myself right now. It
Yeah.
probably will be more expressive as it warms up. I might like literally pull this as when we're starting the tasting. But
I know, I
yeah,
can
as
smell
of
it.
right now, I'll call it some medium.
I was gonna say medium plus.
Um, all right, what do you smell?
I mean, to cut to the chase, I'll go through the grid, but there's a lot of red fruit. I don't know if I get anything floral. If it is floral, it's kind of like I don't know, like a tangy floral note.
Yep.
Um, so green fruit, if like I almost kind of get a really ripe yellow apple-y note to this
Yeah?
that
Okay.
blends in with the red fruit. I probably have a question for you sometime about the difference between like really ripe fruits that are less ripe fruits compared to perfectly ripe fruits that are like red ripe fruits, because I kind of get those confused sometimes. But
Yeah.
mostly, skipping down, it's raspberry, cherry, little strawberry, black cherry, almost kind of like high tone cherry cola, cherry cough drops, like a lot of cherry.
Yeah, there's
Like
literally
a-
like a cherry cola thing going on here.
Yeah, like a Luden's cherry cough drop. I don't know if anyone ever has those kind of useless cough drops that taste really good. Luden's cherry cough drops, they're delicious.
It's a very specific. I like that.
Yeah. Black fruit. I mean, I could get like a red currant, black currant type of thing going on
Mhm.
here as well. And maybe some plum.
Yeah, I get quite a bit of plum actually here. Like there's definitely some plumminess here. That black cherry cola kind of a thing going on here. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Like I do get a little bit of red cherry here as well. But yeah, black currant, black cherry, cola, plummy thing. Yeah, for sure. Nature of the fruit.
Um, I think it's fresh, except with my apple thing. That's like, kind of like a overripe type of thing, but it's not really cooked. It's pretty much on the point of ripeness, but it's super ripe.
Yeah, very ripe, fresh, but yeah, I wouldn't call this overripe. I wouldn't call this like, cooked or jammy or anything like that, or even pruned. But yeah, very, very ripe fruit. All those things. Any herbaceous, herbal, spice, non-fruit things?
I mean, there's a medicinal. I often get that in Lambrusco. There's sort of a medicinally thing to it.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't know that I can quite place it, and but yeah, there's kind of like a cough syrupy, aspect to the fruit that
Yeah.
it's kind of what I always get with Lambruscos.
Yeah, I mean, this one is not like it's not overpowering here, but there's a faint hint of, I mean, this is going back to that kind of like a cherry cola thing. Like for me, there's that like almost root beery, sarsaparilla, cola-y, that kind of a thing going on here. Yeah, again, like it's not necessarily on here, but to me, that's what it reminds of, like some sort of a medicinal, like root beery, sarsaparilla kind of a thing, cola.
And there's a little bit of pepperiness on the nose as
Little
well.
greens? Okay.
Not green pepper, maybe almost like a white pepper kind of. It's
Ah,
like
okay.
there's a little bit of sort of a pungency of it.
Little spice, yeah. Okay.
But it's not like super pronounced.
I can see that. Yeah, you can see a little spicier. Yeah, for sure. Any stone or anything?
It's got some minerality in there. I mean, it's not super pronounced, but it's got sort of a stony backbone.
Yeah, yeah. To me, this is really what this wine is, and then what it's trying to be is this. It's all fruit, just kind of like really approachable, ton of fruit. Exactly what like a Lambrusco wants, like is supposed to be. Like at least there's kind of like a thirst quenching kind of a pounded everyday kind of a Lambrusco. That's exactly what this is. So yeah, a lot of fruit, not a whole lot of like other things going on. Any secondary, any tertiary?
So when I'm not getting it now, There was a time, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes ago, I was getting almost kind of like a cheese rindy type of thing going on just a little bit, but it's kind of gone. So I don't know if that was ephemeral or imagined, but I got a little bit of kind of like a cheese rindy thing. It wasn't super like yeasty or biscuity, just almost like just a touch of it, but it's not there anymore.
Yeah, it may just be the initial just kind of opening the wine, kind of warming up, opening up to air, because especially with the Charmat stainless method, I mean, it barely spends enough time on the yeast to really picking up any like that savory, yeasty kind of a thing. As soon as it's done fermenting, it's basically bottled and sold out. But yeah, like to me, this is fresh, new. There's really no secondary, tertiary. This is all primary, even within primary. It's really, yes, you could convince me maybe there's a little bit touch of a violet, some sort of like a floral touch in here. But yeah, to me, it lives right here. This is black cherry, black plum, black currant, touch of red plum, red cherry kind of a thing. That cola-y, sort of medicinal, herbaceous touch. I do think that your call on that like little maybe white pepper or some sort of like a peppery, spicy kind of a thing, I think it's a good call. I do get a little bit of that. But yeah, really, we're talking about just a fresh, primary fruit-driven wine here. Cool. You get to pick the next person for the palate.
And interestingly, I can't on the iPad actually see anybody anymore. So, oh, there's some people. Okay. Does anybody want to go? I'll pick Jamie here.
Oh, Jamie.
I feel like Jamie was working on a brief the last time I was working on a brief or something. So maybe this is like the stars align.
I just finished mediation. Cheers.
Hey, nice.
Are you still in your office?
I am in my office, but I have the wine this time. That's why it's in a cup.
Love it. Love it. All right, Jamie.
Well, since you're still at work, we can like give an assist if you're like, why did you do this to me? I don't want to put you on the spot.
But I've never done this before. And what am I supposed to do?
So you're going to go through the palette and I'll help you.
All right, the palate. It is not sweet.
Yeah, this one is quite dry. I remember this wine being, like I said at the beginning, having a little more sugar on it, but right now it's tasting really, really dry. I would call this very dry. Yeah.
My very first mouthful, there was sweetness, but it feels more and more dry the more you drink it. So
yeah.
Okay.
Right now, as I'm tasting it, I'm gonna call this dry. Acidity. How acidic is this wine?
I think it's pretty hot.
Yeah, it's got some acid, right?
Yeah, and high tannin. I have no idea alcohol. How do you?
So it's pulling here. I'm going all the way to like medium plus here, but it's like high end of medium, lower end of medium plus. If you ended up either one, I think it's perfectly fine. But I think I tend to end on like medium on this one. It's not like super high, but it's some acid. It's good. Tannin. So move it around and you'll feel like a little grip in your mouth. Like if you're drinking a really tannic, like a red.
Somewhere between medium and medium plus. I feel. Oh my God. So it doesn't like get you in the back though.
That's the acid. That's usually where I feel acid. I don't know if that's where you feel acid, but so tannin. This is actually perfect. I want you guys to make a sensory memory of where tannin is on this wine and compare it to what the tannin is on next week's wine, because you will see what that difference is. Because there's tannin here. I'll probably call this like lower end of medium, like medium minus, higher end of medium minus, lower end of medium. Okay. There's definitely some grip here. I wouldn't go all the way to like squarely medium minus here. But once you get into medium plus territory, like it just coats your mouth, like the tannin. I don't think it's quite at that level yet. Because wait until next week, because next week's wine is going to enter into the medium plus territory, and you will see what tannic Lambrusco really feels like. Medium plus tannic Lambrusco feels like. So just to help you calibrate senses, like call this like lower end of medium, high end of medium minus, and then wait until we get to the wine next week. Alcohol. See if you can guess the alcohol percentage. What do you think this is?
I have no idea. Like,
So, like,
it reminds me of a cider, so I want to like say it's higher, but I have no idea.
yeah, it's like watch the warmth in your. I don't even know what it is. Does it even say on the bottle, on the label?
The label doesn't say much.
Oh, here you go, 11.5%. So,
Oh,
so that's like lower end of medium. That's like medium minus medium, somewhere in there. So 12 to like 13.5 is like medium. 13.5 to 14.5 is like medium plus. 10.5 to 11.5 is medium minus, and then the low is 10 and below. So this is kind of in the higher end of medium minus, lower end of medium. That's kind of what we call this. But yeah, this is what 11.5 feels like to you, however that feels like for you. Body.
not full.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not
If you had to
really.
put a milk percentage, I'll probably put this in a like, I don't know, somewhere between 1% and 2%, somewhere in there.
Yeah, pretty light, like medium minus maybe.
Yeah. Somewhere in there, like medium minus medium, that territory right there. But yeah, not super full. Moose, the bubbles. How does the bubbles feel to you?
Aggressive.
It is quite aggressive, actually. I'm surprised how aggressive it is. Mine has blown off quite a bit because it's been sitting in the glass for a bit. But when I first poured it, it was aggressive. And again, that's these Charmat method. When it's literally as soon as it's done fermenting, when it's bottled and sold off, the bubbles haven't had the time to really dissolve into the wine, so it really can get aggressive. And I think this is a good example of that. Like, it foams up really quickly and it gets really aggressive. So this is somewhere between kind of that creamy, aggressive. It does cream up, but it is quite aggressive. It's not, these bubbles don't feel like elegant and fine to me. Flavor intensity. How pronounced are the flavors?
Medium.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I'll call this about medium. It's not like screaming out of the glass.
Yeah, it's not
like
light and it's not like
Yeah.
robust.
Yeah, I think it's a great call. I'll call this about medium intense flavors as well. Do you confirm all the things that Charles
Oh, I missed it.
identified?
I was pouring and out, so because I'm in the office, I also distributed. So I missed this part. I was like,
Well,
I can't waste this. I have to see who's still here, and I took glasses around.
you're the wine fairy for the office, I do. Yeah, so we talked a little bit about maybe just like touch of violet, floral, if there's a floral, but it's not a very floral wine. But if you're to talk about it, Charles talked about like a ripe yellow apple kind of a thing. I didn't get much green fruit, but he was getting some sort of that kind of yellow apple. But really where he and I talked a lot about is this right here, all the kind of like the black cherry cola. He got more red fruit than I did, but he got some raspberry, red cherry, red plum. But definitely we both agree on this like black currant, black cherry, black plum, that kind of stuff. Cherry cola kind of stuff. Fruit being fresh. He got a little bit of this like turn to of like this like a peppery kind of a spice. Yeah, and then none of these secondary, tertiary big things. It's really, we're living in this fresh fruit primary world. It's kind of like what we said. Is there something else that sticks out to you or something you disagree with?
Maybe a little bit more of that, like other, like a little bit of stone or flint, maybe.
Okay.
Mine was not well chilled. So I don't know, that affects it a little bit. It definitely exploded when I popped it open.
Yeah.
Because it was not cool enough. So a
lot of pressure on this thing. Yeah, these bubbles are jumping out of the wine. They're not quite dissolved into the wine very well. But yeah, some sort of like a stony
Yeah, something that's a
kind of
little
thing.
more
Okay, West Stone kind of thing. Okay,
rich
cool.
flavor or something.
And then finally, the finish. How long do the flavors stick around once you taste
Oh,
it?
I feel like they stick around pretty good. Like medium plus, maybe medium.
Well, it's about
Maybe that's
yeah.
more the acid that I'm just thinking of though. Like the
Yeah.
acid kind of sticks with me a little longer, but not
Okay. Flavor themselves. Yeah. Yeah, I would call this about medium. It's not super long. It's not short necessarily, but it's like right in the middle is about what I would call this. So yeah, I'll call this my medium finish. So you're gonna take it home for us, Jamie, and I'll explain how this goes. So quality level, 4 things we're gonna talk about, and I'll walk you through each one of them. So one is balance. Do you think this wine is balanced? Is there anything in here that is so overwhelming that it distracts you from tasting, experiencing other things?
the acid a little bit.
Yeah, you think acid is that high?
Maybe the acid and bubbles, like yeah, because I was trying to like the finish, right? I feel like the acid gets me and it stays a little bit.
Okay. Okay.
Or maybe it's the bubbles.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
a little unbalanced on that side.
Okay. But overall, flavor-wise, there's nothing that's sticking out. Maybe a little acid, structural-wise.
No,
I think the fruit quality-wise here, I think there's a lot of tart kind of fruit here, but it's not like the acid themselves to me doesn't seem like at the actual pH level, like the acidity of the wine itself doesn't seem super aggressive here. But there's definitely like that tart kind ofness, like a tart fruit type
yeah,
of thing.
tart. Yeah.
All right, so that's balance. Intensity. So this one, we're just recalling it. So we called it medium on the nose, medium on the palate. Complexity, how many different things are we talking about? So we talked about maybe a little bit of a flower, but really what we're talking about is this.
My associate's here. I told her to come see what you're making me do.
Hello.
All out the qualities of the wine. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, so what we're talking about is mostly right here, just all kind of a black fruit, some red fruit, maybe some like a cola herbaceous kind of a thing, maybe a little bit of peppery kind of spice. You mentioned a little bit of that, like wet stone, but we're talking about not a whole lot of things in primary even, definitely no secondary or tertiary things. So in terms of complexity, we're not talking about many different things. We're talking about really just kind of fruit forward, black fruit, with a touch of red fruit, with a little bit of like a non-fruit things, like a little spice and stone thrown in. So if you were to call that on a low to high scale, like what would you call that? Like medium minus, medium plus? What would you call that?
Yeah, maybe medium minus.
Yeah, so I would call that like medium minus to medium. It's not necessarily super complex wine, and it's not meant to be. Like, not all wines should be complicated. This is meant to be a very kind of fresh, quaffable, entry-level kind of wine. And then finally, the finish, you called it medium minus to medium, somewhere in there. So if you look at all those 4 factors, balance, intensity, complexity, and length. So this wine is balanced. You did mention the acid being maybe potentially being out of that acid balance. But in terms of intensity, we called it medium. In terms of complexity, we called it medium minus to medium. In terms of length, we called it medium minus to medium. So when you take an average all of that, we're kind of landing it like kind of in that medium minus medium territory, right? So when you're looking at that when the average of all of that comes to medium, basically wine, according to the WSAT grid, they call it good. When that average is medium plus, it's very good. When that average is high, it's outstanding. When that average is medium minus, it's acceptable. Low, poor, faulty just means there's something wrong with the wine. So we're landing somewhere between medium minus and medium. So we're landing somewhere between acceptable and good. And, me being a generous taster, I'm going to go with medium. So we're going to call this a good wine. And now, level of readiness for drinking or potential for aging. Would you age this one? And how you can tell, in order for wines to age, there are 2 things that you need. You need the structure You need the structural components, and then you need a flavor component. And each one of those components breaks out into two subcomponents. So the structural component, we're talking about tannin or acid. It's basically like the backbone. So all the flavors don't fall off. Wine has to have a strongest kind of a backbone. And then the flavor, we're talking about intensity and complexity. So let's talk about structure first. Acid, you call this what? Medium.
Yeah,
You call this, you actually thought this was a little bit higher. Like you call this like a medium plus, medium to medium plus, right? I call this about medium acid. Tannin, there's a little bit of tannin here, right? This is like about medium minus to medium is what I called it. So it's decent. When on the average, we're talking about medium kind of acid and tannin. So decent backbone, not great, but it's not nothing. Two, flavor wise, intensity, we also called it medium on the nose, medium on the palate. So not super intense. Complexity wise, we didn't have a whole lot of different things going on. We called it about medium minus medium as well. So all in general, there's not really a lot of things here that is meant for a wine that's meant to be aged. So I would say, forget about all of that. Chill this down, invite some friends over, open up your favorite cheese and charcuterie, and drink this with no abandon. Is basically.
Or bring it to the office.
Or bring it to the office, share it with your
Share it with
coworker.
your associates.
Yeah, have them join the call. Enjoy the beautiful California sun in the background. While East Coast folks we are sitting in our kitchen dining. So that's what I would say. But if you did want to age this, would it fall apart within the next year or two? I don't think so. I think it'd be perfectly fine. But for me, what makes this wine enjoyable is the immediate kind of freshness and approachability. It's not meant to be this like long aged, complex kind of thing. Just enjoy it now. It's some Lambrusco are meant to be, but it's just a really delicious, well-made version of that. So there you go, Jamie. You did your first
time.
grid. So good work. All right. Any disagreement? Any questions? Dr. Pepper from the fountain after you let the ice melt. Very specific, but yeah, totally. It's got that like, yeah, soda-y kind of a thing. And that's why I call this adult soda. I think this is like the perfect adult soda. It's not meant to be complicated. It's not meant to be complex. It's not meant to be a thinker. It's just meant to be enjoyed. It's exactly what this Lambrusco is meant to be. Any questions? Did everybody like this one? Just out of curiosity. Did anybody not like this one? David Corlette, the so-and-so?
Yeah, not my favorite. It was
Okay.
interesting, definitely. But
What about it is not appealing to you?
I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it just needs to open up a little bit, or I don't know.
Okay. Sure. Did you like last week's Lambrusco?
Middle of the road.
Okay. So maybe that's kind of your thing. Maybe that's not your jam. Like the really, I think there's quite a bit of similarity between last week's and this week's. This week just has more structure. It's just a little more robust. But they're both very kind of that grapey, fruit forward, just kind of like a everyday Lambrusco. Like, and maybe that's not your jam, and that's okay. Okay.
I really like Lambrusco, but
Yeah.
I like last week's a lot more than this week.
Yeah. This one is it's interesting. For some reason,
It feels a lot more grippy. Maybe that's what it is for me.
exactly.
Yeah.
There's more tannin, there's more structure here. And that's exactly that difference between the Salamino and Grasparossa. So Grasparossa, it just gets inkier, darker, fruit gets darker, you get more tannin, it gets bigger. It's just what it is. So yeah. It's not that you should like everything, but you're learning. So next time you see Lambrusco, you can say, I like Salamino or Sorbara, not necessarily Grasparossa.
Yeah, I think to me, like Lambrusco is just fun and kind of silly, but also delicious to me.
Yeah.
So maybe I just like less structure for it.
Yeah, and if this is that's why it's turning you off of it, that like tannin, the structural part of it, definitely drink this with some food. Whether it be some hard cheese, whether it be some, slice of salami, having some sort of like a protein component, just kind of soften out that tannin and all that stuff. This wine just makes a lot more sense with that like a little slice of salami thrown inside.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm not eating anything with it, so
Yeah.
that would probably help.
100%, 100%. Any other questions?
Do they make a non-sparkling wine with the Compresso grape?
The Grasparossa? I've
Yes.
never had one. Maybe they do. I don't know. I'm not sure. I've never had one though. Only had it as a sparkling. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I've had a descendant of a Lambrusco variety called Urbano, made in a still wine, and that was quite interesting. That was kind of good actually. But in terms of actual Lambrusco varieties grown in Emilia-Romagna, I've never had it in still style. Yeah. Does not mean they don't exist, but I just know. Tastes like a still red that was put in a soda stream. All right. All right. I mean, yeah, this is meant to be like a kind of like a soda. So yeah. All right. Let's play everybody's favorite game. How much do you think this wine is on a retail shelf? How much do you think you'd be happy paying for this wine on a retail shelf? We called it good. Reputable producer that's been making wine here for 4 generations. It's delicious. What do you think? 22, 19, 2020. Any other guesses? Oh, by the way, this is 2 grams of residual sugar added. So it is really nothing. That's not much at all. So in DC, 20. Okay. Those are pretty good. 20, 25. All right. On retail shelf, this wine will cost $18. So there you go. For sub 20 Lambrusco, I think it's pretty damn good. Yeah, is it the most mind-blowing, cerebral thinking Lambrusco? No, and it's not Lambrusco. It's not all Lambrusco meant to be, but in terms of that kind of quaffable, approachable, friendly Lambrusco for sub $20 for $18, I think it punches way above this $18 price range. So there you go. There you have it. But again, this serves as kind of like a reference point. So remember this wine, like try to remember, put some sensory memory of this wine in your memory bank, because when we taste the next week's wine, it is going to be dramatically different, even though it's made from the same variety, made by the same producer. It is a day and night difference between this wine and next week's wine. So try to remember. Okay? All right. Any questions? Go. Well, hearing none, I'm going to turn off the recording